For the fourth year in a row, the IndyCar Series visits the beautiful West Florida coast city of St. Petersburg. But for the first time, there's some threat of rain. More on that as we progress. Right now, let's talk about Scott Dixon. Of course, he won last time out on the ovals at Miami Homestead Speedway. And Tony Kanaan, of course, was the big loser in that last few lap crash right before the checkered flag. A couple of new faces up front. Will Power is one of them. The other is Justin Wilson, as it's going to be a battle on the streets of St. Petersburg. And we welcome you live to the beautiful city of St. Petersburg, Florida, where we have had record crowds this week. And I mean, it has been very difficult to get around the paddock area for the Honda Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. And we welcome you to Firestone Race Day, where we get you caught up on everything that's going to transpire in the next couple of hours. And already you can see just a hint of an umbrella, as there's been just a quick smattering of rain. But right now it seems to have stopped, as Scott Dixon, of course, coming off that big win last week, showing his way around the oval tracks. But if you remember from last year alone, he is very good on the street and road courses as well.
Professional athletes love to find their comfort zone, and Scott Dixon is about to find his victory circle at historic Watkins Glen.
Scott Dixon will see the checkered flag for the third consecutive race. Watkins Glen, Nashville, and now Mid-Ohio.
Final lap of this terrific race. Dixon out in front.
Who has the advantage? Who has the momentum going into the final two races of the season?
Way to go, Dixon.
Scott Dixon will be the new IndyCar Series points leader.
Those three road course wins certainly put Scott Dixon in championship contention a year ago. In fact, Scott, you've won on the road or street course 5 times in your IndyCar Series career. What gives you an advantage on the road and street layouts?
I don't know. I think we've had some luck definitely go our way, but our cars at Target Chip Ganassi have been pretty fast. I think on the street course and the road course. Today, though, has been a different story. This weekend's been tough, so we've got a lot of hard work ahead of us. We're starting back in 13th position. We just had a terrible qualifying session there and did everything possibly wrong. So, I'd like to think that we can still come through, but it's going to be a tough day, and hopefully, the boys in the pits can help me out.
He's been runner-up here the last 2 years. Jack Arute.
Well, thanks, Vince. 1 week ago, Tony Kanaan thought he was going to kick off the inaugural season of reunification with a victory. And then this happened. A collision with only 3 laps to go when it went back to green, and TK had to be satisfied with a less than podium finish. But TK, you didn't have to go to Dr. Phil this weekend. You just put the 7-Eleven car on the pole. Now, what's the difference running with the transitional drivers here as compared to Homestead?
Well, obviously they are a lot more competitive here because that's their background, that's their home court, and I have to say it's been a tough week, and they've been very fast, and I loved it. I mean, qualifying yesterday, I think it was the best qualifying I've done in a long time.
With as competitive as this field is, how does it affect the way and the tactics that you and your team will use throughout the course of the race?
We got to be thinking about points. I think, they're still going to be hurting in some of the ovals, so we can't be too greedy thinking we got to win this race. I mean, although I'm ready to do it, I think we have the car, but as I learned last year, you got to finish every race, and I lost the championship. I won a championship in 04 by doing that, and I lost a championship in 07 by not doing that, so I'm looking for a good finish today.
Marty Sterling Moss once said, to finish first, you first must finish.
Let's bring in IndyCar analyst Scott Goodyear. We've already talked a little bit about the fact that 2 of our transition drivers from Champ Car will be starting up front, Justin Wilson and Will Power. What a difference 1 week and 1 racetrack can make.
Well, Marty, for a lot of those drivers last week was the first time a lot of them had seen the oval. A few of them had some oval experience, but not many. When they come here, well, you know something? This is what they're used to. A lot of them have a lot of experience on road courses and street courses and background in Formula One. Now, if we look at the top 3 qualifiers from the transition teams of last week, all the way through to this week. What a difference it is. Frank Pereira, Oriol Servia, and Justin Wilson, they were far back in the queue there. Well, if you look at this week, front row with Will Power, Justin Wilson is not far behind in the second row. Oriol Servia is there. All those drivers are strong, and I think they all have a great chance of being on the podium here this weekend in St. Petersburg.
Well, let's put this in some statistical balance. You got to remember that the entire Indy Racing League has run a total of 11 road and street course races in its history. Well, Champ Cars guys, they ran 14 of them last year alone. Is it any wonder they're doing so well? Let's talk to two of them that are going to be starting up front. Let's check in with Brienne Pettigo.
Guys, a couple of new faces occupying the two of the top 3 spots here this weekend, with Will Power and Justin Wilson qualifying second and third. Will, can you describe for me the difference you feel as a driver on this street course between the Champ Car and the IndyCar?
Yeah, well, the IndyCar, you've got a lot smaller window to set the car up on, and the way the differential reacts, it's very violent, the way it snaps out on oversteer. But, I mean, as far as weight and tyres go, it is a very similar car.
And, Justin, you had a bit of a frustrating week in Homestead, Miami last week. How important for your team was the week you had here, the good qualifying effort you've shown?
I think it's very important. We started off with no experience, and you know, in the first session we had the McDonald's car on the top of the timesheet, so that lifted everyone's morale, and you know, hopefully we can stay up there for the race. You know, we qualified third. I think we've got a good car. I'd like to finish on the podium.
Marty, these guys have been consistent all weekend, and they've got something to prove.
All right, thanks, Brienne, and that's going to wrap up this edition of Firestone Race Day. Don't go anywhere, though, because, of course, we'll be starting the engines and getting this 100-lap event underway. And, of course, focus will be on this man as well, Helio Castroneves, because he is attempting to win here for the 3rd time in a row. Oh, and contact, a little bump and nudge from Helio Castroneves. Boy, the NASCAR crowd would be thrilled with that move. That's going to be a fun post-race team meeting. Oh, and Helio crashes again.
It's ridiculous. I mean, I'm trying to hold my life.
When you hit somebody from behind, and I wasn't very happy, and I got out of the car to talk to him. And I think he needs his dad to defend himself all the time, and his dad bumped me.
Whoa, got contact. Oh, and up and over. Oh, we have contact.
I don't know what he was thinking. Obviously, maybe he must start thinking about driving and stop thinking about dancing or something, because that was a stupid move.
Dixon spins, and Franchitti gets swept up in it.
Oh, that was on purpose. That was on purpose.
Just an idea of what you may see again today as we welcome you here to the Honda Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. It is race number 2 of the 2008 season, and as we've said, the rain has rolled in. It is now a wet race, which means we're going to be starting on rain tires, and that is going to make this even more interesting. Let's go trackside.
Ready? It's time for those most famous words in motorsports. Please welcome Miss America, Kirsten Hagelin.
Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines.
As you can see, the rain is starting to come down even heavier. We have never even practiced in 4 years in the wet. We're about to go racing in the wet. What's going to happen? Come back and find out. You take a look at the Firestone Firehawk rain tires that everyone has on as they have been ordered for a wet race, and it has opened up. The skies are really emptying right now here at the Honda IndyCar Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. And as we mentioned just before the break, we've never practiced here at St. Pete, let alone raced here in the rain until this very moment. And Scott, this is going to be very, very interesting.
For a lot of these drivers, especially the ones that have not spent that much time in cars driving in the rain at all, this will be difficult because most of all, it's a street circuit. Make a mistake, hit a wall.
And a lot of paint, which we'll also talk about, changes traction. Take a look at our Honda starting grid. There you see Kanaan, Power, and Wilson right up front. We will tell you Marty Roth had to withdraw after a crash this morning in the morning warm-up. They bent the tub, did not have a backup ready to go, so we are down 1 car in the starting field.
The neat thing about this racetrack is it is fast. It is a street course, yes, but it also is run on an airport. And a lot of the drivers love to make sure that they have a chance to learn everything about this track. And in practice, we had some great laps run, and we're going to go around the track right now with Ryan Briscoe as he heads down to turn 1 up to 160 miles an hour. Now we have those new paddle shifters that we're going to explain here throughout the show, and drivers don't have to take their hands off the steering wheel to go up through the gears. And now he's going through turn 4 up towards turn 5. He's going to get up to about 150 miles an hour from 5th gear back down to 2nd. Now this is a 2nd gear turn, and this is going to be 2nd gear all the way through until we get to turn 9. Very difficult to pass here, but very easy to make a mistake. As we start to come back out towards the bay in through turn 9, we're going to get back on the gas all the way up to 5th gear. This kink here is taken at 135 miles an hour flat out, and you're going to come down to turn 10. 5th down to 2nd gear. There again, don't have to take your hand off the shifter. You can see gets over the gator bumps on the left-hand side. That wall on the right comes up very quickly. Turns 11 and 12. You're getting through here 135 miles an hour flat out, and bound to the most important turn, the last turn leading on to the longest straight, Marty, because if you don't get that right, everybody will pass you. Headed down into turn 1 because it's very wide.
That's one lap when it's dry. This is what it looks like when it's wet. And you see all those runway paint strips there, especially down into turn number 1. That is going to make that extremely slick. And Scott, you can sort of graphically show that. I mean, they can slide on those things.
Well,
and it's going to be like ice.
Certainly there for the airplanes to know where they're going. The drivers certainly don't want to see that, though.
All right, we've got 6 onboard cameras. I don't know how good they're going to be seen right now. Good views out the back, because if we go out the front, you're going to get nothing but mist. Oriel Servia, of course, in the number 5 Plantronics machine. Graham Rahal in the whole wall cam, Stellara, as he'll be there. And Ryan Briscoe for Team Penske has our onboard camera. You took the lap there as we went around the course. Scott Dixon for Target Chip Ganassi Racing has 1 onboard camera after winning last week. He certainly earned it. Ryan Hunter-Reay, who has done extremely well, was 3rd quickest in the morning warm-up. He's had a very good weekend. He's got the ethanol car. And Marco Andretti with the Gillette Fusion. Dallara. All right, let's get our final stories from a sort of soggy pit crew. Vince Welch.
Well, Marty, for Danica Patrick, it's already been a challenging weekend. Danica and the 7 team have been in the lower half of the speed chart throughout the course of the weekend already. And Danica and her team have been searching for a comfortable and consistent race car, but team manager Kyle Moyer told me the rain actually plays into their favor. He says it puts everyone on a more equal level, and it becomes more about the smartest driver than the fastest car. They don't have the fastest car, they just might have the smartest driver. Brianne Pettigo?
Vince, I asked Tim Cindric, with the addition of more cars, more competition on the racetrack, how will that change things today for his driver, Helio Castroneves? He told me the biggest challenge they're going to face is that they're unfamiliar with the new driver's driving style. They haven't spent a lot of time racing side by side with these guys, so they don't know who's aggressive and who's not. Other than that, it really is coming down to traffic. There's going to be more of it everywhere, and with more traffic, there's inevitably more cautions. Jackaroo?
Well, Brianne, Scott Goodyear showed you the paddle shifting on board with the Penske cars. Take a look. These are the paddles. Now, let's show you the difference between 2007 and 2008. You take a look at the side-by-side on the right-hand side, it's the paddle shifting. On the left-hand side, it's the conventional old way. You notice that the situation is you never take your hands off the wheel anymore. That's pretty good, guys, because that's what they teach you in driving school, right? 10 and 2, 10 and 2. All the time.
Well, Jack, they'll certainly want to be 10 and 2 today, because keeping your hands on the wheel throughout this course when it's wet is going to be very, very important. The car is going to be sliding around and moving about, and the most important thing is to get to the end. We've heard that from so many drivers today. And we talk about what to watch for, patience. Well, patience is very important when it's dry. Well, when it's wet, you're going to have lots of patience. Can't make a mistake, can't overdrive the car, pay attention to the puddles on the road. Physical fitness, it's going to be very demanding here, both physically and especially mentally today with this wet weather conditions. Pit strategy, we've already heard a little bit about maybe running a longer stop like with Danica Patrick, trying to get the fuel system going to give her a few extra laps. That'll be the thing today, and we will get better fuel mileage here in the rain because we're not going as fast. So look for a 2-stop race. And also the weather. Well, we already know it's going to be wet. We are anticipating wetness, and now it's here in droves. And the biggest thing for a lot of these drivers is the patience leading up to turn 1, Marty.
All right, let's take a look at our track facts here at the streets of St. Petersburg. It's 1.8 miles in length. The width is 26 feet at the narrowest. There's 14 total turns. We will go 100 laps, but we're probably going to hit the 2-hour time limit. In fact, we've been told that we will start the clock this time by, but we will not get the green flag because there is some standing water in some of the areas on the racetrack. So the clock will begin running, but we're going to continue under caution for at least one extra lap.
And the most important thing they're doing there is letting the drivers get around the race circuit and see where the drainage is on this track with this wet weather coming. You can see how deep the puddles are there. Now, the Firestone Firehawks, great race tires, great rain tires, but it's just like having too much water on the roadway when you're driving your car. If you hit a puddle, you will aquaplane and the car will come out from underneath you. And you don't want that in your road car. You don't want that here, especially as we see the double yellow wave now instead of the green as the clock starts. And Al Spire from Bridgestone Firestone is standing up there, and he is just watching everything that's going on. You can see these Firestone Firehawk tires. They do have great adhesion. They're a very soft tire. They're softer than the Slicks, Marty, because it's going to be cooler out there with all the water on the racetrack than it would be if it was completely dry.
All right, so we get word from Brian Barnhart. He actually talked directly to two of the drivers, Tony Kanaan, Elio Castroneves, and said, should we go or should we stop? In your opinions, both said we should wait just a little bit longer. And the rain has slowed again, so that will allow the drainage to take place. So, Jack, let's get a little more on the rain tires.
Fellas, as Scott Goodyear said, it gives you superior grip in the rain, and part of it is the same way on your passenger tire. And to avoid aquaplaning, you've got the grooves here, but it's much thicker as well. When the track begins to dry, well, you need to get rid of these treaded tires because they retain so much heat. Remember, with a slick tire, you've got about the amount of tread width, or the tread wear that you've got on the size and the width of a credit card. Let's go to Brianne Pettigo for more stories.
I've spent the morning talking with the former Champ Car drivers and our usual suspect IndyCar drivers, and the thing I've got to report is that the former Champ Car drivers have been looking forward to this rain. All of them kind of told me all morning long, hey, did you hear it's about to rain, with a little smile on their face. They are used to this. They know how to get around in the wet track, and they're looking forward to showing off out here tonight. Vince?
Well, Brianne, Tony Kanaan told me earlier today when he talked about the difficulty of this track, even on a dry circumstances, lots of bumps, lots of tight corners, fast corners, slow corners. He says the tougher the better, and that includes the influx of the talent from the Champ Car Series. So these transition teams just makes it even better for Kanaan. He says the most difficult circumstances allow the best drivers to rise to the top, and there's no question, as you see the rain coming down and the wet surface, the circumstances are even more difficult here today for those drivers.
And as you can see, the pace car stays out, so that means at least one more lap under caution here at the streets of St. Petersburg. ESPN's presentation of the Honda IndyCar Grand Prix of St. Petersburg, brought to you by Honda, sole engine supplier for the IndyCar Series. By Firestone, the first name in Indy racing. And by ethanol, fueling America's future. We are still under yellow here as we have started the race officially, but have not gone to full green flag racing because, as you can tell, we have rain. You can see the scattered showers, and our temperature 78 degrees. It has been absolutely perfect. A little on the warm side occasionally, but this is the first bad weather we have had in 4 years, actually, of coming here with the IndyCar Series.
And not a whole lot of information on these cars running in the wet because we've not run that much in the wet. I mean, think about it, we've only actually run 3 years on road courses and street courses, so they don't have a lot of data information on this. Now, the Ethanol Edge this weekend has to go to both Will Power and Justin Wilson, two drivers that actually clipped each other at the first race at Miami Homestead, but have come back here and really showed how good they are on a road course. You see some stats on them right there. Poles and wins, and the wins for Will Power were at Las Vegas and Toronto in 2007, Justin Wilson, Toronto, Mexico in 2005, Edmonton 2006, and in the Netherlands in 2007.
And as we wait to go green, we've picked up some radio transmission from Justin Wilson's spotter. Let's listen into what the conversation was all about. obviously we had a bit of a technical glitch with the radio, but that's going to be an issue today.
That's a problem here, as we just talked a little bit earlier on, and Jack Root brought it up to our attention, and it's very much, I've remembered this from the past, whenever it rains, the radios that are in these cars, they will last for a little while, but once they start to get wet, you lose radio communication, and the drivers here will have to rely on the old system that we used many years ago, and that is the board men that are up and down the front stretch. They'll hang a board out on the front straightaway, tell them how many laps until coming in for fuel, how many laps till the end of the race, and how far they are in front of the driver that's they're competing with. All great information that they generally would get on the radio, but now we'll have to use the signboard.
Okay, we've gotten information from race control. What they're concerned about right now before we go green is turns 11 through 14. So that's near the back far end of the racetrack where there is some standing water. And Scott, you can explain, you can see right there, that's some of the guys down pit lane. What standing water does for people when they're out in their street car and they hydroplane.
Well, you've got a certain amount of traction that you're relying on when you're going around this race course. Remember, you probably have 650 horsepower at the rear wheels with these Indy cars. And then what ends up happening also is there's no traction control like we have in our road cars today. So the driver's right foot is basically the traction control, the computer, if you will. So they have to put their foot on the gas very gingerly and make sure the tires are not going to spin. It kicks the back end out. And then once you turn around and hit a puddle, if it's too deep, it raises the tire up on top of the water, and then you lose traction completely. Now, you can really take care of this in the slower section. As you can see here, going through some of these turns, the speeds are slower. Maybe you're not going to run into trouble, but you start going along the backstretch. Remember, we're doing 160 miles an hour going down the main straightaway here on the Albert Wooded Airport, and as you rush down to turn 1, if you go across the water, it'll just pick the car up and send you into a pirouette, and Marty, you become a passenger.
One of the other things we can start talking about also is this is going to change the fuel strategy because mileage is going to get better, especially obviously here under yellow. But even when we go green flag racing, they're not going to be at full song. Let's go to Jack Root for a little bit more on that topic.
Yeah, Marty, you got to consider these are caution laps. Now, one of the things when we talked about at Homestead is Honda had initiated going back to fuel position settings. You've got fuel position 1 under caution and 2, 3, 4, and 5 under full green flag conditions. But one of the things under caution that fuel position for caution settings does is basically it alternates the cylinders and the firing order of the car. In essence, what it does, it cuts in half the number of cylinders that are firing at any one time. Now, there are some Honda cars out on the highways, guys, that have that as an available option. The alternating firing of the cylinders dramatically increases the fuel mileage. There's a lot of guys down here on pit road that are huddled over computers right now trying to reformulate their fuel strategy. Vincey?
Well, Jack, just to build on what the storyline that you developed there in regards to the fuel strategy, and I was talking to a couple of team strategists just before the rain started to fall, talking about the potential for rain, and they said their engineers spent a lot of time working and calculating what type of fuel mileage they would have if they ran into a situation either very similar to this at the start of the race or once the cars started having to run under these circumstances during the race. Obviously, you get much better fuel mileage when your cars are running at a much slower pace as they are now and as they would under a wet track condition during the course of green flag racing. Marty?
All right, thanks, Vince. What we're going to do is, obviously, as we continue under yellow, we'll take a break here. And obviously, as the minute we get more information, we'll get this race started as we're in lap 5 and the clock is running here at St. Petersburg. We continue under yellow here as the clock is running and the laps are counting. It's whichever comes first, either 100 laps or 2-hour time limit. But it looks like we are going to get to go green flag racing here soon. Let's talk about our upcoming motorsports calendar. Of course, the NASCAR Nationwide Series will be at Phoenix this coming Friday at 9:30 Eastern on ESPN2. And then the NHRA Powerade Drag Racing Series continues on ESPN2 from the Strip at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. And that will be qualifying Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern. And then the finals next Sunday night at 8 p.m. also on ESPN2. So as we look a little bit further back in the field, in the 9th starting position, you'll find the 06 of Graham Rahal. And of course, Graham, the son of Bobby Rahal, 19 years old, had a career best second last year at the Houston Champ Car event. And of course, if you were with us at Homestead, Miami Speedway last week, he had that crash in practice and was unable to make the race, but he's here and he's ready to go. And it might be nice to catch up on the 19-year-old.
I mean, it's tough. And, you know, go out the first couple of laps, I mean, I was saying it felt like I had like 100 bricks on my head just pushing you down, and the next day you don't even feel it. And yeah, it was tough initially to go through.
Coming over to check on us?
Hey, I don't want you to affect you mentally.
Don't worry.
Okay,
fine.
Okay, good.
You're worrying too much. It just seems like once the car has understeer to start, the tires just never come back to you.
Where did you guys cut on the mirror? On the front of it or on the back? What did we do? We trimmed it back.
But I got the roof thing, so.
It's always tough, you know, when you look around, and when I just watched Dan crash, I mean, that was a hard hit.
Oh.
I mean, obviously that's difficult to kind of get my wreck out of my mind, but certainly to race here this weekend would have been a good way to do it.
Part I like is, Dad, you worry too much. But there's Graham right there in the 06 for Newman Haas Lanigan Racing. As the report now is our only standing water is still in turns 13, 14. They're working quickly to get that taken care of. And there you see his record with 14 starts last year in Champ Car in 07. And let's check in with Dad, see how nervous he is right now.
Well, you got to be both nervous and concerned because Bobby Rahal not only has his son making his first IndyCar start, but he's trying to beat him as well with the ethanol car. Kind of mixed emotions, Bobby?
I guess you could say I'm conflicted, but you know, I'm obviously, as a parent, I'm cheering Graham on, and I hope he has a good, safe race. And as a team owner, you know, Ryan's done a great job this weekend so far, and we're in a good position to try to win this race. So I want both to do well.
Guys, he says he calls it confliction. I call it confluxion.
Thanks, Jack. And you know, it's great that he can still be a dad, and he's not afraid to be a dad. You know, I mean, he's not that macho race car driver like some of you guys are.
Well, you know, it's honesty is great, and Bobby's always been one of the greatest guys out there, and always good sound bites. But without a doubt, I guess I would have to ask him, which car are you going to watch go by every time he comes by in the pit lane?
All right, let's check in again. Tony Kanaan reported on racetrack conditions. Let's see if the radio's working a little bit better this time.
Tony, it's race control again. Can you give me an update?
Turn 14 is really bad right now. Where I am right now, and then the whole last corner, there is no way, there is no part of the track that I can go without aquaplaning. It's right here. It's pretty bad.
10-4, copy.
We need somebody, I mean, even us going around that corner, we come back, there's a bunch of water here. If somebody could go there and sweep the water a little bit, it would help a lot, because everywhere else, it's not bad.
10-4, copy. I'm going to dispatch a sweeper to turns 11, 12, 13, and 14.
And that's exactly what Brian Barnhart, the other voice you heard on that conversation, the president of competition. And let's show you turn 14. That's the standing water that he's talking about. And then, as we pull further out, you can see that there are several streaks of standing water. Now, the sweepers have been through there, and it looks like we're finally getting a race line towards the apex of the corner there where you saw the safety worker. And there you can see from up above, better view.
Yeah, the sweepers have been out, and the most important thing right now for those guys is to get that standing water off. And the track is looking like we're only a lap away. What Tony was saying, which was his concern as we watched the pace car head with the cars down there, is that there is no part of the racetrack that was passable without a lot of standing water on it, because the drivers would go ahead and race like this, but his point about it was that there was too much standing water.
All right, we're hearing that it could be just a couple of more laps as they are getting that area dried out enough to go racing here on the streets of St. Petersburg. So we'll go to this break. Stay with us. And back here at a soggy St. Petersburg, see the pace car in the back there? That means he has pulled off, which means the field is now in the hands of our pole sitter, Tony Kanaan. Now, it will not be a side-by-side start because they started the race officially under yellow. In fact, we're working lap 10, I believe, if my count is correct. And we also have a 2-hour time limit, whichever one comes first. So, yes, there you see across the top. We'll show you the running order. It will be a single file start, and we will go green flag racing here on the streets of St. Petersburg next time around. And that is turns 8 and into turn 9. We'll try and give you those positions on the track because a lot of street circuits all look the same. That's long stretch down by the bay and a quick little left-hander right there. There's the bay off. Right? And there you see off to the left, there's some clearing of the skies. The rain has stopped, so it looks like now it'll be a question of how long do we stay on the wet tires before the course dries out, and then you're going to have to make the switch to slicks.
And that will really come from the drivers. They will radio back to their engineers and the teams and let them know what they think, and then they'll have to look at the fuel window, and the team will make that decision.
Well, we've been under yellow for about 20 minutes, but here we come down into turns number 13 and 14. This was the trouble spot that was holding us up, but no longer. Tony Kanaan will lead him through, and he'll give the signal, and the flagman will give us the green flag. And oh, we've got a spin already. That is Ryan Hunter-Reay. He loops it coming out of 14. Tough break for Ryan because he had started so well in the number 6 spot. Tiptoeing down into turn 1. Kanaan, Will Power, Justin Wilson gets around Power. Here come the Penske guys following in lockstep. Whoa, and look at the side slipping of Justin Wilson's 02 McDonald's car.
Now remember, we said there is no traction control with these cars, so the drivers themselves, they have to use their right foot almost like a computer to sense how much they can push their foot down on the pedal.
You saw Scott Dixon as he was trying to move his way up. As Scott started in the 13th spot, has already moved up 3 positions to 10th. You saw somebody get rid of a tearaway as it flew off from the back of the car. And Tony Kanaan, with nobody in front of him, starting to open up a little space over Justin Wilson.
Tony Kanaan has the biggest job in front of him is understanding what the track is going to do. The driver that's following behind gets to watch the car that's up in front, and he gets to see what the track conditions are in this wet situation. So it's sometimes better to be second or third than it is to be up the front.
Let's go back to see Ryan Hunter-Reay from up above. He was in the 6th position. There he is as he comes out.
Yep, just gassing the pedal, trying to get a run going down the straightaway, and just spins those rear tires. Remember, they've been going around very slow, not very much heat in the back tires right now, as of yet.
Luckily, no contact with the wall. Ryan Hunter-Reay is back into action and has fallen back to 18th position, so a costly spin cost him 12 spots. There's Elio Castroneves. Of course, Elio trying to win for the 3rd year in a row here. And his teammate Ryan Briscoe right behind him. Oh, and that is Ed Carpenter as he goes off in turn 14 area, right at pit in.
Same situation, trying to put your foot on the gas, and you want to get going because that's a long straightaway down the front stretch there, and that's where you can carry the most speed and gain the most time.
Let's go back and show you what happened to Ed Carpenter. There he is. Whoops.
Yeah, remember, when it's wet like this, all the water that's on the track is just making it worse, and especially in the racing line where all the rubber and oil is. Usually you get a lot of connection to the road when the track is dry, when the rubber's down, but in this situation here, you want to try and run and put your foot down on the gas in sections that people have not been running on the most. That's where you will get the most traction, not on the regular racing dry line.
Well, and to give you a difference in lap times, we're running laps now at about 1:19. We were running at about 1:03 in the dry. Oh, and Danica is off at turn 10. And it looks like she stalled the car. And there's Will Power. He's opened the doors. He goes wide, and Elio Castroneves is going to sneak through, and maybe his teammate Ryan Briscoe? No.
See, what Will was doing was trying to carry the speed down the straightaway into turn 1 a little deeper that time, and that's how you find the limit of the car in the track in these wet conditions. He just went just a bit too far.
Jack, you got more on Elio?
Yeah, that pass that was just made, guys, was with fuel conservation in mind, so that adds more impact to what you're saying about the race speeds being much slower in the wet. I'm listening in to Tim Cindric talking to Elio, and you know the Penske's are always good with this. They have already tried to squeeze as much as they can. They've gone down 2 stops on the fuel mix. Prix?
Well, Elio may have just gotten by Will Power, but just as the race began, his team radioed to him, reminding him that because of the conditions on the racetrack, this has become a race about survival. There is plenty of racing still left to do, and Will has time and patience to get there.
Thanks, Bree. And there's the stats on Will, the 27-year-old from Australia. And there is Danica Patrick. She has gotten restarted and has dropped back to 25th position. Last car running on the track right now. Let's go back and see what happened.
Coming down to turn 10, trying to make a dive, going down the inside of Jay Howard and can't get it done. Remember, it's going to be a little bit wet on the inside, a little bit slippery, more so because there's not been cars actually clearing the water off that path. It's sort of uncharted territory.
Vince, you got more?
Yes, exactly, Marty. And as you saw clearly in the replay, Danica Patrick just could not get the car stopped quick enough. And it's something that the teams have been talking to their drivers about. Make sure you can gauge your brake. They just indicated to Danica to change her fuel setting. Might possibly give her a little better traction. Scott, you might want to explain.
Well, the fuel setting puts a little less fuel into the engine. A little less horsepower is the result. But as a driver, you would love to have traction control, what these guys don't have.
And now Marco Andretti has taken it off on turn number 4, and he has stalled. So now 2 of the AGR cars have had problems. And meanwhile, teammate Tony Kanaan continues up front. And now we have a full course yellow because there's Mario Moraes as he has gone off also. And it looks like he's made contact with the tire barrier. So Moraes brings out our second caution as we started the race under yellow. We can set the top 5 for you. How much damage? Yeah, you got the left front corner. As he looks like that wing is toast. And then before we get a chance for pit stops, we're going to step for a break. Tony Kanaan, Justin Wilson, Helio Castroneves, Will Power, and Ryan Briscoe. That's your top 5 here at St. Petersburg. Back here with Marco Andretti as he has gotten restarted. He's trying to catch up with the back of the field here at the streets of St. Petersburg. We're under our second caution. And apparently there might have been some possible contact between Mario Moraes and Marco because they both were off at turn 4. Do not have any visuals of that or confirmation, but they both went off at the same spot. There's Oriol Servia as he is currently running in the 6th position, and he is from Catalonia, Spain, which is the hometown also of the late Salvador Dali. In fact, if you look at his helmet, he has a tribute to Dali, as he is a big, huge fan, and there is a huge museum here in St. Petersburg, which he took us along to show us around.
This is probably one of his most famous pieces, you know, Persistence of Memory, but his melting watches are very typical, and I kind of like it because melting time, you know, I'm trying to go as fast as I can against the clock all the time, so many times I have melting clocks in my helmet. I want to believe I'm not as crazy as he was, but I'm hoping I have a little bit of his genius style, and anyway, that's his face, as you can see. It's very much him, and he looks after me when I'm racing. I'm hoping by Indy, month of May, I maybe have those ones going.
I don't know how he'd look in that handlebar type mustache, but maybe we'll see by Indianapolis. Thanks for taking us along. In fact, Brienne Pedigo went along. I think Brienne didn't he end up spending quite a bit of money. As here comes Tony Kanaan down pit road. Vince?
Tony Kanaan coming into the box. They had tires out, but now they've decided they're not going to change the wets. They're just going to top off fuel for Tony Kanaan. A very quick stop, and away goes the 7-Eleven.
And I see one other car. It looks like one of the Team Penske machines has come in. That would be Helio Castroneves. So a little bit of split strategies going on here from teams.
And the most important thing there is leaving those rain tires on because it takes so much to get some heat in those tires to get some grip, and you don't want to put tires on that are cold. So leave those warm, wet tires on is the best for grip.
Let's get an update on Ryan Hunter-Reay, Jack.
Ryan Hunter-Reay originally was not going to pit despite the spin out, and then elected to, following the leaders rather than doing the opposite. No major changes there, just they wanted to check and make sure that everything was copacetic after that harmless spin at the drop of the green. But there was a chassis change on Helio Castroneves' car. They added front wing. Guys, they were still trying to dial the car in. Let's go back upstairs.
All right, thanks, Jack. As back on board with Oriol Servia, and we were talking about you know, his trip to the Salvador Dali Museum. And Prix, you were along. What all did he buy?
Well, Marty, he wouldn't divulge exactly what he bought at the gift shop, but he told me that there are, it's a difficult thing to find some good Salvador Dali gifts for people and things. So He spent about $500, if you can believe it, and he picked up a lot of gifts, a lot of things. I'm actually here with the owner of his car, Kevin Kalkoven. Kevin, you had an unfortunate skiing accident last weekend. In case everyone didn't know, 4 cracked ribs, a punctured lung, a concussion. What in the world are you doing at the racetrack today?
Well, I think it's obviously a lot safer than skiing. That's for a start. No, nothing would keep me away from this race. Our guys had worked so hard to get the cars ready that it was just a way of saying thank you to them.
Guys, he spoke to the team earlier today and told them he appreciated their hard work and was very proud of them. Vince Welch?
All 4 of the Andretti Green teams did come into pit. The Target Chip Ganassi teams stayed out on the track to gain track position, but I went through each of the 4 AGR teams to talk to them about tire wear on these slicks. All 4 teams had put tires out as if maybe they were going to change, but all 4 crews said the wet tires looked terrific. There was no inconsistent wear, and at this stage, no reason to change. And obviously, the track is still plenty wet, that those wet tires would be in effect.
You see Tony Kanaan making some gestures. He has been signaled on the blend line that he had to move back a couple of positions. And I think they have moved him back 2 spots to 8th. So you can see right now there is the AGR team. And like I said, Tony has had to move back a couple of spots. I think they made that very clear in the drivers' meeting because of the fact that where the blend line is out on the track, it's hard to judge when you're coming out of pit lane.
And let's explain what the blend line is. When you leave the pit box itself and come onto the pit lane and then you go enter onto the racetrack, there's a line that goes across the track. Whoever is to your left, you have to blend in behind that particular car. Now, the pit lane here is a little shorter than the racetrack, so Tony just goes as quick as he can. He probably came out in front of a couple of cars that he did not beat to the blend line, so simply by radio control, they turn around and say, hey, you have to have the 11 car behind, for instance, the 4 car.
And let's talk about a little bit of history made. You saw him just go past the first transition driver coming over from Champ Car to lead an IndyCar race. It is now the 02 of Justin Wilson, and there he is at the front of the pack behind the pace car where the lights have been turned out, so that means 1 more lap to go. And as he makes his way around, let's talk a little more trivia and a little more time for our GoDaddy.com trivia question of the day. And it has to do with which is the only IndyCar team to finish in the top 4 spots here at the race at St. Petersburg. And I know you know this answer because you were here, so you're ineligible, Scott Goodyear.
Well, if there's a prize there, I would certainly answer.
Well, there is a prize. And here's the answer. It happened back in 05. It was Andretti Green Racing with Dan Weldon, Tony Kanaan, Dario Franchitti, and Brian Herta finishing in the top 4 spots. Only time it's happened. For more, just log on to ESPN.com/GoDaddy. All right, so we've had a lot of spins, and it's not the kind of dancing that Helio Castroneves likes to do. And as you can see right there, there's right at the start, or actually the restart of the race after we went yellow for the first 9 laps. And then it happened for Ed Carpenter after Ryan Hunter-Reay in the very same spot. Luckily, nobody collected him. Danica Patrick got in too deep, couldn't get it stopped. And not shortly thereafter, this is what happened with the 26 of Marco Andretti as he got stuck in turn 4. No contact there, although Mario Moraes went off and into the barrier at the very same spot. So don't know exactly why both those guys went off. And there's our Honda aerial coverage. And we thank the guys for hanging with us, especially through the rain. And it looks like we're running through turns 12 into 13 and 14 as we're getting ready to work lap number 20 of 100. Also, it could be a time race. It's a maximum of 2 hours or 100 laps, whichever comes first. And we're back to green flag racing here on the streets of St. Petersburg.
Interesting to see that last turn. 2 different styles coming out. Helio Castroneves decided to, Ryan Hunter-Reay decided to go on the inside where not the regular racing line is, and he got better traction there than Will Power, who's now getting passed by quite a few cars.
And let me correct myself. Tony Kanaan had to go all the way back to 11th as a result of the blend line, so he lost quite a few spots. He'll have to fight his way back through. There you mentioned Will Power as he has gotten passed, and there are the 2 Target Ganassi cars coming through as well. Will Power trying to work his way up from that spot right there in about 5th position. In front of him, Graham Rahal. And all of a sudden, there is Dan Weldon and Scott Dixon. Now remember, it was Dixon starting 13th as he had a tough go of it in qualifying. Dan Weldon started 8th. Let's get more from Vince.
Marty, on that restart, Scott Dixon was sitting in the 10th spot, and Mike Hall, who handles his strategy, encouraged Dixon to make sure he got a good jump on the restart. And as soon as that green flag waved, even though Dixon wasn't in eyesight of it, Mike Hall jumped on the radio and said, green, 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 and Scott Dixon passed 3 cars before he got to turn 1, went all the way from 10th to 7th.
All right, so they continue and down into turn 1 one more time. And Danica is off again at turn 10 and has stalled the car again. So not a very good weekend for Danica. She did not practice well, did not qualify all that well. And so far in the race has been off twice in the same spot at turn 10. Well, you saw Graham Rahal take a look underneath Will Power, couldn't get it done. While they continue, let's go back and show you what happened to Danica. Again, she's trying to dive underneath. Oh, no,
she's on the outside right there and trying to make a move. Somebody was coming down on the inside of her, and in that situation, what ends up happening is that she's on the outside and got pushed off.
Let's get more on Danica's situation. Vince?
Well, as we told you beforehand, that Kyle Moyer had indicated that maybe Danica Patrick was going to get a bit of an advantage because of the rain, because it was going to even up the playing field a little bit. It certainly hasn't been that way, as she's been off course twice already. And Danica just came over the radio, and the car not handling the way she would hope it would. She's in regular communication with Kyle Moyer, but not much Moyer can do for her at this point, for sure.
Well, as you could see, she is in jeopardy of going a lap down as we go back through the field a little bit further. There is Weldon tiptoeing through turn 1. It opened the door for Dixon, his teammate. Dixon's side by side with him there, and Dan sort of slams the door on him.
Now remember, these cars were all set up to race in the dry, so although we don't use sway bars mostly on most of the cars around here for these street courses, and you don't use a weight jacker like you would on an oval, there's not a whole lot of adjustments the drivers can do when driving these cars in the wet. Tire pressures will be changed possibly during pit stops. Maybe a little bit more front wing that we heard was already added during one pit stop, and that's because you don't have as much grip in the wet as you do in the dry. So when you start to charge into the turn, the first thing that's going to happen is the front wheels are going to get light and slide across the road.
Well, while these two are running together, we talked to Scott about how these two have come together as teammates.
No, I think we just understood, you know, the both of us being very competitive, that if you're not going to work together, you're sort of, you know, as single car teams, and you can't, you know, leapfrog ahead working together. So, you know, I think we're both competent people, and you know that, you know, 2 is better than 1. So I think, you know, we took out of that, you know, that small-minded bit that both of us had, I think, and trying to prove that we're better than each other. And instead of doing that, we should, you know, work together and, you know, both fight for a race win instead of fighting between each other.
And right now they continue at 6th and 7th. Weldon in front of Dixon. Let's set the top 5 for you. It's Justin Wilson, Ryan Briscoe. Oriel Survey is now up to 3rd. Will Power is 4th. Graham Rahal is 5th. And you heard about Weldon and Dixon. That rounds out your top 7. We go side by side here after 22 laps. As you can see, we're still a little soggy here. I don't think it'll be too soggy in Phoenix, as it'll be a Friday night on ESPN2, the NASCAR Nationwide Series presented by CC's Pizza. Coverage begins with NASCAR Countdown, 9:30 Eastern. If you need more, just log on to ESPN.com. And just when we thought the rain was allowing us to dry out the race line, you can see, if you look at the puddles there, light rain has begun to fall again here at St. Petersburg. First time in 4 years that the IndyCar Series has come here that we've raced in the rain. So far, several spins, only the one real contact with the wall by Mario Marias. Marias is still out there running. He's although 2 laps down. That's Will Power in the number 8 that you're looking at, as he's running behind Oriel Survey. It is Justin Wilson up front, followed by Ryan Briscoe, Survey 3rd, Power 4th, Graham Rahal is 5th. And while while we've got the opportunity, why don't we do our first up to speed, get you caught up with some of the newer names that are running well up front. Brianne, you're up.
Well, right now, Justin Wilson is in the lead. He has been quiet on his radio to his crew chief, and this car is running exactly like they wanted it to, but we need to keep an eye when they are coming in to the pits. That's where it's going to get a little bit dicey for them. Jack?
Well, Brianne, right behind Justin Wilson, the McDonald's car is followed by Team Penske in the red and white familiar liveried number 6. Ryan Briscoe, who did not run here 1 year ago, tapped to replace Sam Hornish. I chatted with Ryan before the start of the race. Remember, Brianne, Ryan Briscoe led laps here back in 2005. But that, of course, was when he was driving for Target Chip Ganassi Racing. He likes his race car right now. Should be pitting in about 7 to 10 laps.
Oriol Servia right behind Briscoe in the number 3 spot. He is a new face to this series, but he has raced here before. In fact, he finished 5th in 2003. He is not getting exactly the best fuel mileage right now, but he did manage to take advantage of his teammates' bad restart after that last caution. Right behind him is his teammate in the 4th position, Will Power, who is getting great fuel mileage. The team is very happy with his performance so far. Persistence and patience is going to pay off. Graham Rahal right behind him has been quiet on the radio. They still have yet to pit. He just got passed by Will Power. Guys?
All right, thank you guys. As that gets you caught up on some of the cars running up front and behind, of course, Will Power and Graham Rahal. It's Dan Weldon 6th, Scott Dixon 7th, Frank Pereira in 8th, EJ Vizo 9th, Darren Manning rounds out the top 10. You're saying, where's our original race leader and pole sitter, Tony Kanaan? He is still in 11th, but remember, he has 16 laps in hand, as does Elio Castroneves, who is running in 13th. They pitted on lap 16. Everybody else has still got to come in.
So a great move by Graham Rahal to get past Will Power. Got off the corners stronger, ended up going down into the turn, and did a great job under braking.
And there is Buddy Rice at turn 4 as he has spun it. He was running in the 16th position, and now he has stalled, so the crews will come out and refire, and of course that will cost him. Keeping an eye also on Danica Patrick. She is still on the lead lap, but you saw her when we were doing the up to speed. There she is, as she is still under attack by the race leader, Justin Wilson. Vince, you've got more on Danica?
Well, the key for Danica Patrick is staying in front of that McDonald's car right behind her, because Patrick does not want to go a lap down. They're talking in the strategy box right now between Kyle Moyer and Michael Andretti about the significance of staying out front, despite the fact knowing that others are in need of a pit stop. Kyle Moyer pep talking Danica Patrick on the radio, telling her she's doing a great job, but stay in front of the McDonald's car.
That's going to be easier said than done, because Justin is closing. And it just may be the matter of time of who has to pit first, who's getting the better fuel mileage, because again, remember, none of those cars have stopped. Really, the two closest are Tony Kanaan in 11th, Elio Castroneves in 13th, then back to Marco Andretti, who is running in 18th position. They all stopped at lap 16. Here we are working lap 28 of 100. All right, as we get set for those pit stops, we'll step aside. You won't miss a thing, as it continues to be Justin Wilson out front. There's your top 5 at St. Petersburg. Back here at the streets of St. Petersburg, that's Justin Wilson trying to put Danica Patrick a lap down while that battle continues. Let's talk about our sports calendar that's coming up next week. The NASCAR Nationwide Series will be at Phoenix. You'll see that Friday at 9:30 Eastern on ESPN2. And then the NHRA Powerade Series continues on ESPN2 from the Strip at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, qualifying Saturday at 8 Eastern. The final Sunday night, same time, 8 Eastern on ESPN2. Right now, Danica is doing well. Vince, in fact, I'm looking at her lap times compared to Justin's. She's running a minute 16.6. He ran a minute 16.6. And those are the two fastest laps.
And she's been running those laps at a consistent pace, Marty, and the crew very happy with her right now in regards to the way she is running the race car. And she's comfortable with the car. And as she becomes more comfortable on the track, as she becomes more comfortable on the track, she becomes more confident, and then therefore the lap times start to drop. So you heard Kyle Moyer over the radio telling her, great job, but it's all important, Marty and Scott, that she stays in front of that red car that's chasing behind her so she doesn't go a lap down.
And what things are happening now is the drivers themselves are looking for wet spots on the racetrack to drive their cars through, to put some water on the tires to cool the tires down, because as the track continues to dry, what ends up happening, it will start to roll the rubber off those tires. The faster you go, the worse it's going to happen.
And you saw Ryan Briscoe, he is just a little bit behind. There he is in Team Penske. He is in second place. And as you saw in a little bit before the break, Graham Rahal was running in fourth. We can tell you that he has moved around Oriol Servia and has moved into third position. He is 9 seconds behind the race leader. There he comes with the 06 hole-in-the-wall camp. As he's turning laps again. Now this last lap, he was a minute 16.6. And let's go and show you the pass.
Down into turn 10. There again, just going in a little bit deeper. Now watch the banner on the right-hand side. Everybody has to run a tighter line to miss that banner that's actually coming onto the race course.
And from the onboard,
just sneaks on the inside. You'll see this banner on the right-hand side that's torn off the tire barrier. All the drivers will be aware of that and missing it every time through.
So the 19-year-old doing very well for himself in his first IndyCar start, as he has moved all the way up to third position. And, you know, he had talked about the fact he started ninth, as you take a look at Ryan Briscoe, and he said, I'm not worried about what we did. Our car's been consistent, and we've noticed, and we've got the full course yellow now as the lights have come on. We've got debris in turn 3, so that's going to slow everything down, and that will change some strategies now as we had those cars that have yet to pit. There it is.
You know, it looks like it could be a piece off of a car. Maybe a car has actually clipped the wall and has broken a piece of bodywork off, but the reason they'll remove that is that if any of the cars run over it, obviously it will puncture a tire.
And like
just
that.
As I said.
And maybe that.
Actually, know something, it might even just be a piece of paper or tape or something like that. It didn't seem like it was all that thick.
And guess who the big beneficiary is? Tip of the hat to Danica Patrick for holding off Justin Wilson from going a lap down. She'll get back on the back end of the lead lap, keeps her race hopes alive. And as we go on board with Scott Dixon, we're getting a report that just a few moments ago, before we went yellow, he had a little bit of contact with Will Power. As you can see, Dixon has gotten around Will.
Well, this might tell us where our debris came from, and there you go. There's a bump right now, and the debris is just sitting up here in the turn just as we're heading into the section here. So possibly that was it and fell off, and that's the cause for the yellow.
So find out what it all has happened. Let me correct myself. It was not Dixon, and that was not the cause of the yellow. Race control has confirmed. But it is Justin Wilson, Ryan Briscoe, Graham Rahal, Oriol Servia, Scott Dixon, and Will Power, your top 6. Let's get more from Vince Welch.
Scott Dixon just had communication with Mike Hall, who handles his strategy, and as they discussed what maybe changes they might make on a pit stop, Dixon indicated that there was no damage to the front end of the car despite that contact. We'll get a closer look at it when they come into pit here shortly, but they had been talking about 14 laps until they needed to pit just before that yellow came out. So the yellow came out just about a perfect time for Scott Dixon, Dan Weldon, and the rest of the Ganassi group.
Well, and you got to remember, we talk about Helio Castroneves going for his 3rd straight here. You got to remember, Dixon was 2nd the last 2 years behind Helio, and there's nothing he'd like more than to go back-to-back after winning last week at Homestead, Miami, and pick up another win here and lengthen his points lead early in the 08 season. And where is Helio Castroneves? There he is, as he's running a little bit further back in the race line. Remember, he was one of the front runners that pitted back on lap 16. He is now 14th out on this field. Jack?
We don't expect Helio Castroneves to pit. He will have used Firestone Firehawk rain tires. So what has Tim Cindric instructed the Dancing with the Stars champion to do? Well, maybe it's a 3-step. Told him to find the wet spots and keep those tires and cool them down. Right now, you're in the cusp, guys, of having to make a call whether to go to dries and slicks or stay on wets. When Ryan Briscoe comes in, we'll explain why Ryan Briscoe will stay with the wets. He should be in as soon as the pits open.
Jack, as we watch all the cars, even coming into the last turn on turns 14, that's exactly what they're doing. As you see Elio now going offline a little bit to look for any damp spot to help cool the tires down. And as they come down the main straight, even during the race, a lot of the drivers are over to the inside to help try and cool the tires down and also maybe look for a little bit better grip on the race course when they're going down into the braking zone, getting off all that rubber area.
And of course, we talked about the fact Elio has won twice here, and of course, that means 06 and 07, and it means you got to climb the fence. And one of the tough things is right here in the streets of St. Petersburg, it's temporary fencing. It's not good and solid, like he says. See how it sort of bends? He says it's really tough trying to climb up there, especially after you've been in a race car pounding around for 100 laps, not 1.8 miles a lap. And you can take a look as the guys that have done well here. In fact, Tony Kanaan has never finished below third at St. Petersburg. We're getting word the pit lane is open. We'll wait to see who the takers will be into pit lane this time. And it looks like here comes Justin Wilson leading a frenzy. And Brianne Pettigo, you're up first.
Marty, Justin Wilson just pulling into his pit stall. He has asked for 0 changes to be made on his car. He's very happy. The only thing he asked for is a towel with Windex for his visor. Jackaroo.
Well, Ryan Briscoe and Helio Castroneves elected to stay out, so Vitor Mira in the National Guard car has pulled out of pit road. The National Guard car going to slicks. This is the first team to change over to slicks, Vince.
You see Scott Dixon pulling out as his pit box right at the end of the pit lane. Dixon changed the 4 tires and added the fuel. They had conversation about putting on the slicks, but stayed with the rain tires.
So it's going to be interesting to see who ends up going to slicks. We have one car that has. We'll have to check and see if anybody else is that brave. Would you have made that call this soon?
Well, you know, it's a 50-50 call right now. There's going to be sections of the racetrack that you can use the slicks on and you will gain time. There's also going to be sections of the racetrack that when you have the slicks on, you'll be sliding through. And what you do at that point in time, not only go slower, but put yourself at risk of sliding in and hitting the wall. So it's really up to the driver's discretion. It's the driver's call at this point in time.
Well, it's either going to be a very gutsy call or it's going to be second guessed for Vitor Mira and the team. Jack, you've got more?
Well, let's remember Watkins Glen, last time in the rain, John Barnes made this call. Vitor Mira hung on. It was 2 years ago. John, is this deja vu all over again? You doing the Watkins Glen strategy, going to the slicks early?
Well, he said there's only a couple places back in the back that's damp, so you know, we'll take a shot at it. Quite a few guys else did too, so we'll see what happens.
Fellas, now everything changes considerably.
It certainly does. This is going to get. This is where it does get interesting when you race in the rain. And whoop, he already just lit him up there. As we'll take a break before we go back to green flag racing. You won't miss a thing here from the Grand Prix at St. Petersburg. Perfect timing. You heard it. Green flag flies here at St. Petersburg as we're back racing here on the streets of St. Pete. That's Ryan Briscoe out front. Whoa, a lot of dicing going on back there between Castroneves and also Scott Dixon, Dan Weldon.
Well, they just got passed by about 3 cars going down into turn 1.
Let's reset it for you. It was Ryan Briscoe, who at the top 3 have not stopped yet. Ryan Briscoe, Dan Weldon, Frank Pereira. That's your top 3. They have yet to pit. Tony Kanaan, Helio Castroneves rounds out your top 5. Then it's Marco Andretti. Remember, he pitted back on lap 16. Ed Carpenter in that yellow Menards car. He is in 7th. He has yet to pit. Bruno Junqueira, AJ Foyt the 4th, Hideki Muto in 10th. That gives you your top 10.
And for the drivers that are on slicks, and we heard John Barnes putting Vitor Mira on slicks, the thing that's wonderful about that is getting some grip in the dry sections that we talked about and going fast. But when you go offline from the dry area to try to make a pass to get yourself through, what ends up happening is you're back onto the wet section, very slippery.
We have 3 cars on race slicks. The 33 of EJ Vizo, of course the 4 of Vitor Mira, and the 23 of Townsend Bell. Let's get an update on Ryan Briscoe's fuel strategy. What's going on there?
Well, Marty, remember we said that the fuel window, the pit window for Ryan Briscoe while it was still under green opened up at lap 33. They actually considered coming in during that yellow. but because of the way the Honda engine makes fuel, ethanol fuel that is, during caution, they have pushed their window to where they can almost replicate that of Helio Castroneves, his teammate. What does that mean? Ryan Briscoe could stay out as long as lap 53. Roger Penske is a master tactician. He may not have won an America's Cup, but he certainly has won his share of championships with that type of strategy.
All right, thanks, Jack. As you can see, Ryan, he's opened up a bit of a lead, about 2.5 seconds now over Frank Pereira. And there's Tony Kanaan, Dan Weldon. And as we move a little bit further back, you're saying there is Graham Rahal, and we're being told that Graham got it turned around and has fallen back. He's shown in 14th position. Let's go back and take a look, turn 14 area.
Just on the outside with Will Power.
Got some help from Will.
Oh, and Will just misses the wall on the outside. Some great driving by both drivers.
From Oriol Servia's on board. Oh, there it is.
Yeah, both of them just wanting to get the run going down the main straight. A great opportunity on starts like that and restarts to gain positions.
And there you see Graham back in action as he has actually dropped down now to 22nd position. He was running 14th at the time, of course, after the pit stop, and now he's got to fight his way back. But that's the nature of especially races like this that they are in the ring. A lot of guys, because of the way they decide the pit cycle, also, you may get a chance to fight your way back to the front.
And he's fighting his way as he just went past Townsend Bell. And here, Will Power right now is getting pushed around in many places as him and Danica ended up getting together.
Well, this is turning into a contact sport today here on the streets of St. Petersburg. We talked about it at the very beginning of our broadcast with the road rage that we saw all of last season on the street and road circuit. So why shouldn't it carry over? All right, let's check back in once again up front. There's Ryan Briscoe and Frank Pereira. And now we can tell you that Tony Kanaan, there he is. He has moved up to 3rd position. He's gotten around Dan Weldon. Helio Castroneves rounds out your top 5.
You see everybody coming off that last turn and just heading towards their right, our left, over to where it's damp, just to try to get some moisture on those tires to cool those rain tires down as it continues to dry out.
And that 15 is Buddy Rice, and he is a lap down, so all those cars are going to want him to give way because they want to get back to the race leaders. And of course, Buddy trying to run his race as well, but as of right there is Dan Weldon. He's sort of a sandwich, the meat in the sandwich there between Marco Andretti and Helio Castroneves. Let's get more on Dan Weldon.
Well, Marty, Chip Ganassi just hit Weldon on the radio, said you're going to have to make your first pit stop in 5 laps. You need to tell us whether you want the slicks or whether you want to stay on the wet tires. I just spoke with Al Spire from Firestone. He said if the track is too dry and you're on those rain tires, there'll be 5 laps at best before you have to get rid of them. Let's go to Jack Arute.
Vince Team Penske is the first to inform their drivers that instead of this going the full 100 lap distance, they've told them and they've told their tacticians, start thinking of it as a timed race. This will ratchet up the action for car number 3, Helio Castroneves, and for Ryan Briscoe in car number 6. Guys?
All right, thanks, Jack. As we take a look, the clock is running, and it would be 54 minutes and 46 seconds of racing from this point till the end if it is a timed race. And if you do look at the times, I mean lap times, it's not really enough.
Well, what happens now is the tacticians in the pit box turn around, start to calculate the speed of the drivers going around the racetrack and start to divide that into the time left and try to figure out how many laps they might be able to complete, and with that try to start then to figure out the fuel mileage.
That's Justin Wilson all over the back wing of the Menards 20 car of Ed Carpenter. He wants around him as quickly as possible.
Now, Ed Carpenter in the number 20 machine is not a road course driver, although he's done a great job here in the past couple of years since this series started to run in road courses. He has been learning and even running in endurance events like the 24 Hours of Daytona.
Take a look at the number 4, Vitor Meira. He's on race slicks, and he makes a couple of passes there. He was in 12th. That should move him up a little bit further in the queue, as you like to say.
Justin Wilson making the move on the inside, and the 4 car, the Delphi National Guard machine of Vitor Mir also making a good run there. And now he's going to have a look and see if he can go on the inside of Justin Wilson in the McDonald's machine.
And it looks like he's going to get it done. And right behind him is Enrique Bernoldi. And Bernoldi makes the pass in the 36 as well. Now we get word that Danica Patrick is pulled into pit lane. Vince?
Danica Patrick and her teammate, there you see Marco Andretti, his crew working on. They've put the slicks on and they're going to have to give it a recharge. Danica Patrick has just pulled into her pit box just behind Marco Andretti. Patrick also putting on the slicks, as is Scott Dixon in the 9 car, who has just pulled away. They're having trouble getting the car of Marco Andretti fired. They now have it fired, but they can't get it away yet. And still sitting in the box, Marco Andretti, they've turned it off, and that proves to be a fatal issue.
Did he snap another half shaft?
There you go, right in the back. A perfect shot from our camera crew down here on pit lane.
Well, the situation with that is unfortunate because he was second last weekend and able to get some great points here in this race if he could have finished up front. And that's going to really be a hit for him towards the championship.
You saw the race leader just go through the screen. Now you're looking at Tony Kanaan. He has gotten around Frank Pereira. And there is on the right side the dejected crew for Marco Andretti. Remember his rookie season, he had a tendency to be too strong on the throttle when they dropped the car. The half shaft snapped a couple of times. Scott, show them where we're talking about right there. As soon as
well, you can see the half shaft, which is it just snapped in that situation. And overall, what ends up happening is that it could be just from a power down situation, or it's just something that maybe failed. But Andretti Green is a great team and always new parts on there. But there has just been a lot of bumps on this racetrack, and all those things go together.
As the action continues out on the race course, we can tell you Frank Pereira pitted. That's why he surrendered second place. So it's Ryan Briscoe, who is now only the 3rd IndyCar Series race that he has led. All 3 have been on road courses. Back in 05 here at St. Pete, again in 05 at Infineon, and now here today. Tony Kanaan is in second, Elio Castroneves, Dan Weldon, and Enrique Bernoldi rounds out your top 5. So Ryan Briscoe, who is still on the rain tires, how long can he stay on them and stay out in front? We'll find out as we stay here, as you take a look up close at Ryan Briscoe. Well, you saw on side by side Tony Kanaan changing over to race slicks, so he surrenders his second place position. But meanwhile, Ryan Briscoe remains on the rain tires, and so do both of the Newman Haas Lanigan Racing teams. Justin Wilson leading our Firestone lap leaderboard with 18 laps led. Tony Kanaan second with 15, and Ryan Briscoe out front with 11. And here comes Briscoe in.
Marty, he had to come in. He was going 3 to 4 seconds a lap slower than the drivers that actually had the slicks on.
And Jack Arute, he's coming your way.
We'll get a look at these Firestone Firehawk rain tires as they're going to switch to slicks. They still had enough fuel, but the tires, they look very, very good. Now, Roger Penske, leaving nothing to chance, reminded Ryan Briscoe that now he'll be on slicks, and it's a slick pit road. Light the tires up. Tries for a controlled drift out. Elio Castroneves will be in next lap, guys.
All right. In fact, it looks like he's coming in right now, Jack.
And he is here. They are going to take the change over to the slicks there as well. We told you they were trying to match both pit stops. They've done that. Elio Castroneves lights them up as well.
So the strategy continues to unfold, and that's what's great. Enrique Bernoldi is now your race leader. That's right. And as the number 3 pulls out, Will Power pulls in. Brienne?
Will Powers just came in to switch into slick tires. The contact he had earlier on with Graham Rahal did not affect him at all. There were no changes made to his car. Graham Rahal also came in to change into slick tires, guys.
All right, thank you, Brienne. As you can see, Will Power going back out onto the racetrack. And
Marty, you can see how dry this race course is right now. There is still going to be pockets of areas where the track is damp, and the drivers are aware of that, and they have to be very cautious not to put themselves in that position to go over that wetness.
Okay, now this is a battle for the race lead, guys. You've got Enrique Bernoldi, and there's EJ Viso trying to go underneath in the 33 around the 4, and he makes the pass over Vitor Mir. So move EJ Viso into second place and bump the number 4, Vitor Mir, back to 3rd. And there is Darren Manning running in 4th right behind him. So top 4 in lockstep. And now they're coming up on the slower car of A.J. Foyt, the fourth, and they're going to split him. Wow, things getting a little dicey, and look out. This is going to be tight. How did they all make it through? A.J. Foyt, the fourth, is not going to be very popular with those four guys at the end of this race.
Boy, oh boy. You know, you can't really get away with that very often, especially when the track is damp in other areas. And that's what really caught Vitor Mir off, because when he had the pass coming upon him, the track that he wanted was wet in front of him. He had no place to go. He sort of had to relinquish. And as we go right now, is Vizo is going to have a look on the inside. And does he do it?
Vizo gets it done. So E.J. Vizo becomes our fourth different leader here as he gets around Enrique Bernoldi. And so as he tries to open it up, let's find out what happened with Marco Andretti, Vince.
Broken drive shaft drops Marco from the race. But Marco, how were the race conditions changing as the track began to dry?
Yeah, it was drying a bit. I mean, the paint was still pretty wet. You know, just about time for dries, exactly when we made the right call. You know, back to the rookie mistake. I'm really disappointed in myself. You know, I gotta say, I really apologize to all the Gillette boys. I think I let them down today for sure, because we definitely, you know, we had the pace out there, but it doesn't matter if you don't have a result. You know, they did a good job in the pits, and you know, that's what happens.
This driver and this team have worked very hard in the offseason, hoping to cure itself of issues of that nature. So, as you saw, Marty, very disappointed in shouldering the responsibility, Marco Andretti.
All right, thanks, Vince, and we'll see him again in 2 weeks from over in Japan. As you look from high above in our aerial footage, that's E.J. Vizo, the 23-year-old from Caracas. He came over, and they listed him as Ernesto, and that's what we called him. And we talked to him during that race week, and afterwards he says, guys, I want to be called E.J. Everybody calls me E.J. I said, okay, it's E.J.
You know, he has a lot of road course experience, has raced in the GP2 series, and also was a test driver for the Spiker Formula One season team itself. So this himself is actually a great opportunity for him to show his talent on a road course, which he certainly has.
Well, as you notice across the ticker, you're seeing a lot of R's for rookies, and of course that pertains to a lot of the drivers who came over from Champ Car that had no oval experience. If you had oval experience, you're not a rookie. Otherwise, you are. Black 33 of E.J. Vizo trying to get around lap traffic of Ed Carpenter for the race leader. He's got some difficulties. No difficulties next Friday night. ESPN2 will have NASCAR Nationwide Series action from Phoenix presented by Cece's Pizza. Coverage begins with NASCAR Countdown, 9:30 Eastern. We'll see you then. And Carpenter, is he going to give way? Makes it a little difficult, but finally gives Vizo the clean pass. Now, this has not been officially declared a timed race, but if I'm doing the math, we don't have enough time left before we reach the 2-hour mark to get another 48 laps in. Look at Bernoldi go underneath, and then the 4 car of Vitor Mir gets caught.
Along with Darren Manning. Now, the problem right here is that you are single file all the way through till turn 9, which they're coming up to right now, and the guys in front are starting to pull away from Vitor Mir and making that gap.
Let's get more from Jack.
Remember, fellas, Vitor Mir was the first to lay the card face up in this game of poker, wets versus dries. When he went to the dries, he dropped back to 18th position. He has now moved in to run in a podium spot. Vitor Mir is gambling on making only one final stop. He, like Team Penske, John Barnes, and the Delphi National Guard team, have let Vitor Mir know that this is going to be a timed race. Then directly behind him in car number 14, how about a call for A.J. Foyt? Now, Foyt over the offseason hired a new team engineer by the name of Mike Colliver. Colliver moved down to Waller, Texas, and with the help of Larry Foyt, they have totally turned that shop upside down. One of the things that is plaguing Darren Manning, though, here, guys, how about severe blisters on both of his thumbs? How'd you like to have to drive this place with blisters on your thumbs?
Well, he had that problem last year. In fact, it led to a spin that took him out of a top 5 finish there.
I think he plays way too much golf. You know, he's always in the golf course, so he's probably never given his hands a rest. And we talked to him the other day. He had some tape on his hands, almost like a boxer would. And he said, that's my concern right now. I don't have to take my hand off the steering wheel to shift anymore with the paddle shifters, but I'll tell you, my hands will be sore by the time I'm finished here.
A little bit further back from Darren Manning in 4th. Let's give a tip of the hat to the number 24 from Roth Racing. That is rookie Jay Howard. And where is Jay? Here he comes into view, not quite yet. He's a little bit further back. But the number 24, the former Indy Lights champion, there he is running in the top 5. That's the best this team has seen ever.
Won 2 races that year that he won the Indy Lights Championship, and a brand new team. The first year it's run full time with Marty Roth Racing, and Marty, as you mentioned before, Marty Roth is not in the event here today, so he's standing in the sidelines, but put some drivers in there that can put their foot on the gas, and he's doing a great job.
And you can see 16 seconds behind the race lead, but still a good, strong run for Jay Howard from Basildon, England. All right, let's talk about some of our rookies. Remember, we told you about the Champ Car drivers coming over in our transition, that if they have no oval experience, they are listed as a rookie, even though they're not rookies on the road course. Hope you make sense of that, because it is a bit difficult here this first year. But there is EJ in first, Enrique Bernoldi second, Jay Howard, Frank Pereira 5th and 9th, respectively. Good runs for these guys.
I think that's probably the highest a Roth car has run in this series ever, and in some great company when you're able to run the race pace that the leaders are running, and the ones that are behind you are not catching you as quickly as usual. So hats off to those guys.
One of the things that we're starting to look forward to is one more round of pit stops. As you see, the 23-year-old from Caracas, Venezuela, EJ Vizo, out in front. One more round of pit stops, unless, of course, the skies open up again, but it doesn't look like it's going to rain just yet. I guess I shouldn't have said that, should I? Welcome back to the Honda IndyCar Grand Prix of St. Petersburg, and of course, you can chat with today's IndyCar race winner, ESPN.com. All you have to do is go to the search page and type Indy Chat at 6:45 p.m. to chat with today's winner. And that might be EJ Vizo. He has got a 5-second lead over Enrique Bernoldi. And then it's third place with Vitor Meira, and we got a crash. It's the 6 of Ryan Briscoe. So Briscoe, it looks like that's about turn 9. It is turn 9. And Briscoe seems to be okay as he takes off the equipment. He had led quite a few of the laps here. He was running in 6th place. Let's take another look.
Now, a lot of times what ends up happening, if you clip the inside wall with your right side, you end up shooting yourself off into the left-hand side. Now, Ryan, let's ride along with him and let's watch. Coming up to turn 9. Yep, just clips the inside wall with the right front for a driver who won here last year in the LMP2 class in the American Le Mans Series. Now, you see, he was out of the car, and then they tell him to put the steering wheel back on the car. It's worth a lot of money, but in the driver's meeting, they said, put it on there so that tow truck drivers and what have you can get the car in neutral. Well, that car is not going to roll anywhere right now.
But you know what this reminds me of? Last year in qualifying, it's the same corner. Tony Kanaan did the very same thing, remember? He clipped that inside wall and then went straight to the outside wall.
You know, it's very difficult because it's a mental game here. We talked about that at the very beginning. It's a physical game here, and that's what is one of the things to watch for. Well, it really is a mental game. You make one small mistake as he's overlooking his car, just standing up there against the wall. You end up clipping it just by a couple of inches. You make that mistake, and you're off.
Well, and you saw the dejection on his face. We talked to him just before the start of today's race. He said, the biggest thing I have to do is finish, because remember, last week, he crashed there. He crashes again. His championship hopes have just suffered 2 big hits. We'll go side by side as we're under our 4th caution here in the streets of St. Petersburg. Well, you can see as the cleanup continues here in our 4th caution, brought out by Ryan Briscoe, tagging the turn 9 wall. Let's talk about our motorsports calendar. Coming up this week, the NASCAR Nationwide Series will be at Phoenix. You'll see that Friday at 9:30 Eastern on ESPN2. And then NHRA Powerade Drag Racing Series action from the Strip at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. And that's qualifying Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern. And then the same time for the finals on Sunday at 8 Eastern. All of it on ESPN2. Well, the field is coming down the front stretch right now as that's what's left of the number 16 Penske machine. After a hard contact with the outside wall, it is EJ Vizo in first, Enrique Bernoldi second, Vitor Meira third, Darren Manning fourth, Jay Howard rounding out your top 5. A lot of names that we don't normally talk about in this series.
You know, and EJ Viso runs for a new team that's here right now with HVM Racing, which is owned by Keith Wiggins. You know, I look back in that, you think about Keith Wiggins, he bought the Bentonhausen team back, I think, around 2001. And been very successful in all the different forms of motorsport that he's been involved in, and won in all different formulas. Has run in Formula One itself as a team. It did not win there, but no surprise to see that these guys are running very strong.
And we're getting word that pit lane will be open this time by, and we still do not know if officially that this is a timed race, although we're trying to do the math, and by our calculations, it looks like it's about 30 minutes and 55 seconds before we hit the 2-hour mark. And we are working lap 60 of 100. So even at a minute a lap, you would need 40 more minutes by my calculations if I've still got my 3rd grade math degree on my wall. And we don't have enough time for that.
Well, you would think, though, but as a driver, when I was driving, you just go and do what's told from the pit lane, from the engineers, because they're the ones that take the time to go ahead and make the time to decide that factor.
Well, we'll find out if EJ Viso leads them into pit lane as they come through turn 14. Will he make the right turn? And yes, because this will probably be the last stop for everybody. And Brian Pedigo still damp in pit lane. These guys better tiptoe.
EJ Viso just pulling into his pit box. His race strategist, Vince Kramer, says they need no changes. His car is running perfect. His father and namesake Ernesto Visa in from Venezuela just watched his son in a great pit stop. Jack?
Meanwhile, it's a time stop and probably gear for car number 4, Vitor Mir. The drag race down to turn number 1, and it looks like Mir lost some spots, Vince.
On the north end of the pit lane, everybody took tires except the 10 car of Dan Weldon. He filled up on ethanol, but no Firestones for the 10.
Well, and Weldon picked up 7 spots, but so did Castroneves. Well, guys, we got to get an update on Elio. What did they do so quickly? Did they only take fuel as well? Because he picked up 7 spots coming in the battle of pit lane. So we'll sort it out for you. You'll go side by side here at St. Petersburg. Under our 4th caution here at the Honda IndyCar Grand Prix of St. Petersburg because of a crash involving the 6 car of Ryan Briscoe. Let's take you back and show you what happened as he clipped the inside wall and then shot to the outside. Jack Arut's caught up with him.
And Ryan just got a chance to see that replay again. Clipping that wall, is that what threw you out there?
Yeah, you know, I just ran up on Jay Howard there, lapping him, and you know, as you can see, it was just a mistake. It was tough, you know. Gloves are wet, and it was slipping on the wheel a bit. So I was having a different grip through the corner, and you know, there were no excuses. Just anticipated the corner a little bit behind the lap car, and made a little mistake, which is throwing our race away. So it's really unfortunate.
Can you describe your feelings right now with 2 DNFs in the first 2 races, Ryan? The 2 DNFs in the first 2 races. Can you describe your feelings?
Well, you know, I think we've been in winning contention in both of them, and Homestead was just really unlucky. We were just looking at a nice solid finish there, and I'm not sure where I was running, but to me we were running strong, and I think we were on the right strategy. You know, we saved fuel, and we're right in perfect position there, putting on the slick tires and stuff, so it's been great. Team Penske is an unbelievable team. It's an absolute honor to race for Roger, and anyway, we've got to move forward now and hopefully get ourselves back up the points.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks.
And Jack, let him know that Jay Howard, that was for position. Jay was not a lap down. He was racing him hard and fair, and I mean, he had a good run going himself. You know, as we take a look here, the weather hasn't been all that great today. There's the Acura Yacht Club, but on a brighter day, we sent Brian Pedigo over there to find out what's it like to be on one of those big boats.
Hey guys, you know, St. Pete is one of the most beautiful venues we get to visit on the IndyCar circuit. It's so unique. Really, next to Monte Carlo, this is the only place that you can sit on a yacht and watch a race. Guys, today I'm gonna go boat hopping and find us the best seat in the house. I'm on board the Lady Magdalena. We're right here in turn 10.
What else can you ask for? I mean, you can see the race from here.
You can see you're actually right on the track. I don't think you can get much better.
I think I better head over to pit lane before I get a little too comfortable on these yachts.
It is a great place to watch the race here in the streets of St. Petersburg. All right, we have got one to go at the line. Now, 2 cars did not pit. Ryan Hunter-Reay is the race leader. He is our 7th different leader. Right behind him is Graham Rahal. He did not pit either, but according to our calculations, both will have to make a stop. They cannot make it. But right behind him is E.J. Vizo, Elio Castroneves, Dan Weldon, Scott Dixon. That's your top 6 as we have one to go before we go back to green flag racing. So we're still showing 37 laps to go, but as you can tell, the skies are getting dark again off to the west, and let's check in with Jack Arute.
Well, guys, remember Bobby Rahal told us he would be conflicted if he found himself racing with his son. How conflicted are you, Bobby?
Oh, there's a lot of race left, so I'm glad to see them both running 1-2, but you know, there's fuel's definitely going to be an issue.
When do you have to stop?
Oh, we don't have to stop for quite a while, but the yellow is going to make us a lot more comfortable.
Guys, Vince? Vince?
Jack, certainly a bit of a gamble maybe in the eyes of some in the regards to the fact that the Weldon team did not take tires. They do have fuel to go to the end, and Barry Wanzer just came over the radio to told Dan you can go full fuel all the way to the end. So look for the 10 car maybe to make some moves here off this restart into the finish. And
Elio Castroneves right in front of him also did not take tires. Now, if you're just tuning in, you're maybe new to the series. The reason Bobby Rahal has that conflicted stance, well, that's his team car that he owns with Ryan Hunter-Reay in the 17, and it's his son right behind him as we're getting ready to go back to green flag racing here in the streets of St. Petersburg. Castroneves looking to the outside quickly of Vizo. Is he going to make it stick? Yes, he takes over 3rd. And Graham Rahal takes the race lead at the same time, getting around Ryan Hunter-Reay.
All about timing, getting the drive off that last turn and getting the speed down the main straightaway and just making your braking as late as possible.
Boy, look at Weldon trying to go underneath the 33 of Vizo. Can't get it done. It's going to get awfully cramped in here, this entire section through turn 9. Got to be single file. And Justin Wilson has spun it at turn 4. That's going to set him back a few spots. And there is the 20. And that is right before turn 4. And now we're going full course yellow because Ed Carpenter is in a very dangerous situation. And that plays into the hands of the 06 of Graham Rahal and the 17 of Ryan Hunter-Reay. They both need more yellow laps to be able to stretch their fuel. How about you this? You're 19 years old, you're in your first IndyCar race, and the 06 of Graham Rahal is in the race lead. Let's get more from Brianne Pettigo.
Marty, when I spoke to the team just moments ago, they were not planning on coming in. He is okay on fuel. They told him, in fact, right before that green flag dropped, to go ahead and go racing. Don't worry about conservation. Jack?
Well, for Bobby Rahal, he has to tell his driver, Ryan Hunter-Reay, in the ethanol special to be a little bit conservative. They need about 3 caution laps from this point forward. If not, according to Scott Remke, they would be forced to do a splash and go of precious ethanol. Right now, the most valuable player on this team is behind pit wall with a laptop computer looking at fuel consumption and trying to figure out how much will be left in the tank.
And of course, right behind Ryan Hunter-Reay in second is the man who's looking for 3 in a row here at the streets of St. Petersburg, Elio Castroneves. He has plenty of fuel, but he did not change tires. So a lot of drama involved here. And again, we're looking at the clock and about 21 minutes to go before we hit the 2-hour mark. 35 laps to go if it's going to go the full 100 distance. So it's looking more and more like a timed event, although again we must point out it has not been officially been termed a time race by race officials.
When you talk about tires, there's certainly better grip on a brand new set of Firestone Firehawks, but today maybe not being as hot as we've seen here in the last couple of days, so maybe the tires will last a little longer for these stints, and that's what the teams and drivers are betting on here, that the tires will still give them enough grip for that race to the end, which I'm sure we're going to have.
Well, we'll find out if anybody comes in this time. I doubt it because we're getting word it's going to be 1 to go at the line this time by. And no, none of the race leaders are coming out. So we'll go side by side. We'll be back, and you won't miss a thing here in St. Petersburg. And of course, those college basketball championships just across the bay up in Tampa, as we're back to green flag racing. And Graham Rahal, the 19-year-old from New Albany, Ohio, is out in front. And it doesn't look like he's conserving fuel at all, because he has opened up about a half a second lead already in one lap over Ryan Hunter-Reay. It's Helio Castroneves in third. Now, we listened in on his radio just a little bit earlier.
All right, good job, Graham. Save fuel here. We're going to be fine on fuel after this yellow, so just save what you can here, and then we're going to be fine at the end of the race. Copy. How many laps are there? There's 23 minutes remaining. 23. Copy.
Well, so he got the green light once they went back to green flag racing. You saw that Helio Castroneves has gotten around Ryan Hunter-Reay. Here comes EJ Vizo. He's trying to get around as well, and you're on board with Scott Dixon, who's in fifth.
Lots of moving and shaking going on here. Vizo's not necessarily running the best line coming through those turns. He runs down the middle of the road, and they talked about that in the drivers' meeting, that if you're going to make a move, as we watch the Firestone telemetry, you have to make sure you make one move and stay there. We'll see if race control is going to continue to watch him.
Well, we've been told Vizo has been warned once already about blocking, so you've got to maintain your line. Do not take a defensive position. We'll see what happens. Coming down into turns 13 and 14 again. Who gets the best run off of 14? This is one of your best passing zones heading down towards turn 1. And right now, Graham Rahal has opened up a 2.7-second lead over Helio Castroneves. This is the tightest battle we have in the top 5. That's Ryan Hunter-Reay in third in the 17. Then EJ Vizo, the 23-year-old from Venezuela. And he's under attack right now, and that's Scott Dixon trying to go underneath.
Vizo runs right down the middle of the road, down on that yellow line, instead of going over to your left hand to set up to the right-hand turn. And that's something, like I mentioned, they talked about in the drivers' meeting. If he continues to do that, they may call that as a blocking move to stop the flow of the car from behind, trying to get underneath going into the turn.
What's that also is allowed to have happen is there's Enrique Bernoldi in the 36 coming up behind Dixon, and Dan Weldon behind Bernoldi. So this pack is sort of closing in, while out front, Graham Rahal continues to stretch the lead. Where's Tony Kanaan? Right there behind Dan Weldon as he's trying to get back up to the front. I don't know if there's going to be enough time in this race. The clock is down to 15 minutes. We will not get an official word from race officials until there are 10 minutes to go in the race. And there goes Kanaan underneath Weldon, so he takes over the spot.
Weldon gets passed in turn 1 many times throughout this race, but that was caused from not getting through the last turn and getting onto the straight as quick as he should have. He had a bobble, the car went sideways, didn't get the power down, and Tony Kanaan got a great run and a great draft and great underneath him going into braking into turn 1.
And Weldon's under attack right now from the 14 of Darren Manning. And right behind him is the 4 car of Vitor Meira. That is 8th, 9th, and 10th place on the racetrack right now. Something looks like some debris underneath the left front wing plate on Meira's car. Shouldn't affect it any.
As long as that doesn't get up into the radiator inlet on the side pod, then he should be fine.
There it is. Yeah, just a piece of maybe one of the banners that got picked up. Not good advertising. Not from down there. 29 official laps to go out of 100 here. Meanwhile, the clock is down to under 14 minutes before we hit the 2-hour mark. This battle continues. We'll tell you that now Graham Rahal is up to a 4.4-second lead over Helio Castroneves.
And he's actually running about 1 mile an hour faster than Helio Castroneves on that last time around, Marty.
Brienne, what rocket fuel is this kid using?
Well, his team gave him the green flag to go racing, and that's exactly what he did. He's just following orders, but they just radioed to him and said, Graham, you know, we really don't need that big of a gap between us and the next car. So he may be pulling it back just a tiny bit and conserving just a little bit of fuel, guys.
Well, do not think that this is far-fetched by any stretch of the imagination. Remember that Newman Haas Lanigan Racing, 78 of the team's 105 wins in their career have been on road and street courses. And who knows, they may be picking up number 79 here. And Graham may be picking up his first open wheel win. His best finish last year in his rookie season in Champ Car was second. And so right now, the laps on time is winding down. Let's talk to Graham. We talked to him earlier about his expectations for the race and the season.
There are a lot of guys that were, quicker than us in qualifying, but a qualifying pace and a race pace is a different thing. And I think that we've got a good car to go into the race with. And certainly overnight we won't be making many changes because, to be honest, we know that as the tires wear, the car seems to be pretty consistent. And I'm not quite sure that many other people feel the same way.
And it's great because that's exactly the way this race has played out for them.
He's a young man, but has a lot of wealth of knowledge, and obviously his dad, Bobby, on the right-hand side there, he can really lean on him and learn a lot from him, much like Marco's been able to do from his dad, Michael, and his grandfather, Mario. But the most important thing right now is the pressure that you have to be able to withstand of coming into this series and having a great name, like a last name like you do with Rahal or an Andretti. And for Bobby Rahal right now, this has certainly got to be just a great, proud moment for him.
Marco Andretti picked up his first IndyCar win back at Sonoma his rookie season. Can Graham Rahal pick up his first in his very first IndyCar start here on the streets of St. Petersburg? He led 3 races last year for a total of 18 laps. If he keeps up here, he's already led 9 laps here at St. Petersburg. Let's take a look at our Firestone lap leaders, and we'll show you everybody who has led some laps here today at St. Petersburg. The most to Justin Wilson, his teammate with 18, Tony Kanaan with 15 on down, EJ Vizo with 12, and there's Graham racking them up. He'll soon pass Ryan Briscoe if he can keep it on the straight and narrow. So 8 different leaders, 7 lead changes, which we're going to keep tabs on as we're going to step aside as there is the margin between first and second place. Graham Rahal has a 4.6-second lead over the man who's trying for 3 in a row at St. Pete. Who wins it? Stay with us. We have been officially informed it is a timed race, and oh no, crash and another car involved in it. That was the number 4, and look out, we could have had 4 cars involved. Vitor Meira, also Frank Pereira in the 34, and I don't know who that is. Oh, and that is Townsend Bell in the 23, as he came around the corner and clipped off the right front. So we go full course yellow. That will now bring us up to our 6th caution, which makes it the most cautions ever here at St. Petersburg.
If there was ever a question of fuel for Graham Rahal, that one has been thrown out the window. I know the team said that there was absolutely no problem on fuel, but this just gives them a bit of a cushion.
Well, and for Graham, he had been given the green light, so you can see 7 minutes and 50 seconds to go, and it's going to take some time to clean this one up. And Vitor Meira, who had a great run going, unfortunately is now in a DNF position.
I think he's overlooking at the right front because he's trying to claim that obviously he had them coming on the inside. Not enough room, nope. That's just a little bit overzealous, I think, of trying to get in there to make that move on that situation.
And then here comes Townsend Bell right across the front.
Yeah, Townsend will see the flying yellow flags when he comes through the turn, so he should have known that there was some cars on the racetrack or debris on the racetrack.
And if you remember, while you were in side-by-side, there is Townsend Bell. You saw Scott Dixon pull into the pits, and there's the heated discussion going on as Vitor, very animated, saying, hey, it was my corner, not yours. But you saw on side-by-side, Scott Dixon ended up clipping one of the alligator strips. And let's go get the update from his perspective. Vince has caught up with him.
Scott, we saw the left rear suspension damage. What caused it?
I think it was definitely from the half spin that I did earlier. Then we bent the suspension just when we went to slicks there, and I lost it going into 4, sort of bounced off the tyre wall. And we ran for like a whole nother stint, but I guess, you know, jumping over the curbs and things like that eventually wore the rear toe link and snapped it. So that was the end of that.
How about the racing conditions today? Started wet, went to dry, then track seemed to be a little damper after a sprinkle.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun though. Everybody was, I think, having fun out there. You know, there's different cars on different tires, and you know, it made for some good racing. I think it was just trying to was very hard for me to try and work out who was on what strategy at the end, and you know, our radio wasn't working at all, so that was very tough trying to make pit calls and things like that. But it's just frustrating for Target. We got a lot of people here, and we came away with a DNF.
Marty.
All right, thanks. And you could see on the video, he mentioned the alligator strips. Every year it seems to capture at least one car, maybe more.
We saw Bruno Junqueira in practice earlier this weekend drive over the rumble strips himself, and actually they are so large here that if you do drive over them, you have a chance of just doing damage to suspension. And at the very least, you end up taking the rub strips off the front wings, which then turns around and changes the handling of the car.
We've got some debris right down there in turn 13, 14. I don't know if race officials see it because they're saying 1 to go at the line. This is going to be interesting. You now have the rookie, 19-year-old Graham Rahal, in front of the man looking for his third straight here on the streets of St. Petersburg, Helio Castroneves. Right behind Helio will be Ryan Hunter-Reay, E.J. Vizo, and Tony Kanaan. And while we get ready to go green, let's also talk about what's going to happen next week, because Friday night on ESPN2, the NASCAR Nationwide Series will be in Phoenix. It's presented by CC's Pizza. Coverage begins with NASCAR Countdown at 9:30 Eastern. And all you have to do for more is log on to ESPN.com.
Now this restart, it might just turn around and make this whole race, because you have Helio Castroneves, who has a lot of experience. He's sitting in second spot right now. You have Graham Rahal, who's leading this in front with his relative inexperience. And when they come down to the last turn to get to this restart, this is going to set everything up, because if Graham cannot get off the last turn quick enough to get down into turn 1, that'll be a perfect opportunity for Helio Castroneves to dive on the inside. Remember, this track is very difficult to pass, so if Helio can get in front, then maybe he'll be able to hold off what I think is a faster car with Graham Rahal.
Let's get a quick update from pit road. Brienne?
Well, guys, this was a gamble on fuel for Graham Rahal, but that yellow is exactly what they had their fingers crossed for, so they're hoping that he's got what it takes to get to the end and he can hold off Castroneves, guys.
Well, he picked up the pace. He ran over that piece of debris. Hopefully it's nothing that's going to cut a tire. And we're back to green flag racing here with 3 minutes and 40 seconds to go on the streets of St. Petersburg. Graham Rahal, at age 19, lights him up going into turn 1, trying to hold off the hard-charging Helio Castroneves. Castroneves pulls right up on him backside. Down the straight, out of turn 3, heading for turn 4. Rahal, if he can pull this off, look behind, there he is. Ryan Hunter-Reay trying to hold off E.J. Vizo for third. Graham would become only the 4th driver to win in his first IndyCar Series start. It was Buzz Calkins in the first ever IndyCar race in '96, Juan Pablo Montoya at Indianapolis in 2000, Scott Dixon did it at Homestead in 2003. Can Graham Rahal at age 19 become the youngest ever to win an IndyCar Series event in his first time out? Helio Castroneves wants to deny the 19-year-old. Let's get more from Vince.
Castroneves trying to win his 3rd straight here at St. Petersburg, and he just got the word from Tim Cindric that he has 3 more laps to go. You've got to get it done in these laps. You've only got 3 left to do it.
Down through turns 2 and 3 now onto the straightaway, and all of a sudden Graham pulls out a little bit on Helio Castroneves. He seems to be getting through that 1, 2, 3 complex much better.
The power is down, the car's handling, and he just ends up gaining about 2 or 3 car lengths. Now it looks like Castroneves gains through this section here all the way through turn 9, but it seems like once the tires are warmed up for Graham Rahal, he seems to be able to consistently pull away from Castroneves. You saw Castroneves' back end of the car slide around there. Tells you how much he's pushing the foot on the throttle right now.
Helio Castroneves with 1:48 to go, which is about probably 2 more laps, maybe 3 at most, depending on when they cross the stripe. Trying for 3 in a row at St. Petersburg, and of course, to win his first ever IndyCar Series championship. Last year, several DNFs denied him that opportunity. Look at the gap now opening up with him and Graham Rahal. It is now, as he crosses the stripe this time, 1.7 seconds. We are being told it'll be the white flag next time by. Here comes Tony Kanaan. He gets around Ryan Hunter-Reay. That is for position. Move Tony into 3rd. But it is all about Graham Rahal right now. Graham, listen to this list of winners. that have raced for Newman Haas Lanigan, Mario Andretti, Michael Andretti, Nigel Mansell, Christian Fittipaldi, Sebastian Bourdais, and now it will be Graham Rahal.
Graham, if I can recall, is the youngest driver in the Champ Car World Series to ever stand on a podium.
Yes, he was.
In that series. So now, this is amazing, because this is something that a lot of people thought that we would see later in the season, Marty. But to do this in the second race and in the first race for him, this is truly great.
Down into turn 13 and 14. This time by, it'll be the white flag. That podium finish you mentioned, second back at Houston last year. And right now, Graham Rahal, he is going to end up leading 18 laps here if he holds on for this one. And a spin, that's a local right now at turn 10 with Ed Carpenter. They will not go full course yellow. Graham led 18 laps all of last year in his rookie campaign in Champ Car. He will become the youngest to ever win an IndyCar Series event if he can just get through about 7 more turns.
And all he's trying to do right now is hit his points, turn in, apex, and exit of the turn, and do everything really textbook style. He's got a great gap right now between himself and Helio Castroneves, no longer looking in the mirrors, just looking forward and trying to do everything perfectly.
Heading down towards where that local yellow is, he gets safely through. He's past the trouble area, so now, as he comes down through turn 12 into 13, he's going to say, hey, Pop, look at me. I'm going to win in my first IndyCar start out of turn 14. Here comes Graham Rahal. Say hello to a new star in the IndyCar Series. Rahal wins at St. Petersburg. The celebration begins at Newman Haas Lanigan. Remember, this team has won 8 championships in the old kart and Champ Car days. And boy, they are just thrilled here in the second start for the team. First ever for Graham to take home the trophy. And Jack has caught up with a very happy Papa.
I don't think he's conflicted anymore, guys. Bobby, describe the feelings of a father to see his son do what you did so many times.
Fantastic. You know, and he had up and down. He got hit and spun. The dude was doing great in the rain. Got up to third, and what a job! And for their team, it's been a struggle the last couple of weeks. And to come out like this, especially after last week at Homestead, not being able to race, and then to come here like this, wow.
How tough was it for you as a dad counseling your son after the disappointment of 1 week ago?
You know, he's a pretty cool customer, and I don't know if I kind of told him, but I never once felt that he was remorseful or that he was regretful. You know, it happens, and you just learn from it. And, all I can say is I think this is the first of many.
What are you going to say to him when you get to victory lane?
I don't know.
We're going to let him go, guys.
Well, Bobby Rahal's first win was back in 1982 at July 4th in Cleveland. And we will talk to the race winner. We'll take a break as a 19-year-old Graham Rahal, the youngest winner ever, heads to victory lane. Let's take a look back at Graham Rahal's day, because early it didn't look like it would end up in victory lane. This is the contact as he gets turned around. Little effort there, but he comes back, does very well, and picks up his first win as a rookie at the age of 19. Let's go to victory lane. Brianne Pedigo.
Graham Rahal just climbing out of the car. Graham, this is amazing. You're the youngest driver in IndyCar Series to win. You beat even Marco Andretti. What does this moment feel like to you? Your first career victory on your first start out.
Well, I'll tell you what, it can't get any sweeter than this, especially after last week not racing, and felt really bad for the guys and crashing the car, but certainly this makes it a whole lot sweeter. You know, certainly didn't expect to beat the record, but we're happy to do it.
How does this change your goals for this season?
Well, I mean, I think it's a little different. Today was a tough race with all the rain and everything, but man, we pulled through it and it worked out. So hopefully we can get a couple more.
Well, I'll let your dad say congratulations to you.
Tiger Woods had moments like that with his father, Earl. Bobby Rahal knows what Earl Woods felt that first time, as every papa should have a moment like that. That's a great, great moment.
Something to remember forever. And you know something, as Bobby said, probably one of many. And he now becomes a championship contender, really. I know he's not great on ovals, but he's already up to 4th in the championship.
Well, let's check in with the man who was going for 3 in a row, Helio Castroneves. Vince?
Didn't get 3 in a row today, but in the big picture, second place is good for points. But I could sense your disappointment after you came in. What was the difference today?
Well, it was so close. Unfortunately, Team Penske did everything we could, you know, to get that car well done. I mean, I'm extremely happy to be part of this organization. But in a slow section, the car was really pushing, and I couldn't just take a chance. And again, I mean, I'm kind of like happy because just to prove that you know, teams that are good teams, good drivers, you know, they can do well. So I'm extremely excited. You know, the series is becoming one together. So I see only positive on this. So hey, second place is good. It's not bad. You know, obviously I want to win the race, but I'll take it. Hopefully in the end of the championship, the second is worth a lot.
Helio, you've won this race twice before. You've won the Indianapolis 500, the greatest race, twice. But can you put in perspective what it might feel for a teenager like Graham Rahal to win this race, his first race in the IndyCar series?
I mean, it's special following the steps of his father, you know. I mean, it is extremely special. I remember when I won my first race, that was a great moment. So he should go celebrate, have fun, you know. Definitely he deserved it, the team deserved it. Hey, we got second place, it's good. So, man, this championship is going to be cool, I tell you that.
Thanks, Helio. Jack?
Well, at the start of the race, before they gave the command to start engines, TK, you told me that you wanted to finish. You've done that, and you're back in the points chase. Tell me a little bit about how difficult that drive out there was today.
It was fun. I mean, all kinds of weather, all kinds of strategy, and we took a different strategy today, and it did not work out for us, but as a team, we win together and we lose together. I think I support my team. I told them, guys, if we struggle, I'll make it up. Because when I struggle, you guys are going to make it up. So, you know, third place is not bad, I think, especially after last weekend. So, points. So, we'll take third. And I think it's a little bit of a curse, Jack, because I've been in the podium here every time I've been here, just not in the right spot.
Well, Brianne, why don't we catch up with another transitional driver that had a great drive?
He did have a great drive, Jack. EJV, so you led a lot of laps today. You ended up 4th. What was it like on the track in the conditions today?
Well, it was cool. I loved it. It was wet in a point, damp in another point, and dry in another. So you got everything in the race. Just trying to get the maximum out of the track. Just use every inch of track and just try to economy a lot of fuel just to be safe. Yeah, but those 2 yellow flags at the end didn't help us, and well, there are many races left. Now we know that we can be in the top, and we are almost as quick as them. We need to work a little bit more in the road courses, and we're going to be in the podium soon.
Do you think the rain played in your favor at all today?
Well, I took the risk. I was the first one to call slick tires, so it was not playing in my favor. I just took the risk and thought about look at the weather around, look at the clouds. I thought it wasn't going to rain anymore, so I took the risk, told my engineer, let's go for it, and we did it, and it paid off.
Worked gambling for this guy, guys.
And let's take a look at the results, and you'll notice that 5 of the top 10 are transition drivers who have made the switch over from Champ Car, including our race winner, 19-year-old Graham Rahal. What an incredible day.
You know, you look at Graham at his age and how much of a future he has, but look towards this year, and he is going to be fast on ovals. It's not going to take him long to be able to understand what he needs to do on those, and I wouldn't count him out as a possible championship contender.
And you can see that some of the guys had some tough breaks, of course, one of them being Ryan Briscoe and Scott Dixon. They were 22nd, 23rd, and 25th was Marco Andretti, as he was last in this field after the half shaft going away. Let's take a look at the points, because Helio Castroneves, with his 2nd place finish, will move into the points lead by 10 over Scott Dixon. Tony Kanaan jumps up to 3rd. Dan Weldon now 4th. Marco Andretti tied with him in 4th, as is Graham Rahal, and Danica Patrick in 7th. So as you look at the celebration continuing, it's been a great day here despite all the weather, because a little bit of history made as Graham Rahal wins at the age of 19. We'll see you in 2 weeks, Friday, April 18th at midnight Eastern on ESPN2 for the Firestone Indy 300 at Japan. And this has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For our entire crew, I'm Marty Reed. Thanks so much for joining us. Coming up next, it'll be Sports Center. And as the celebration will go deep into the night, the 19-year-old isn't even allowed to have a beer. But it'll be a great party for Graham Rahal and his dad, Bobby. We'll see you in 2 weeks.